What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Animal YouTube channel, and you're now entering from my off-season series into contest prep, which I've been in off-season now for a little over 30 weeks. I think we're right around 32-week mark. That's counting back from this past Olympia and starting prep. Around 20 weeks out. I'm now 19 weeks out, so we're just kind of making that transition, and it's nothing drastic that happens going into it. From my off season, if you've been following along, everything's fairly regimented. I'm very routine. The only thing that really changes for me in the off season, as I am a little bit more flexible with macronutrients and matching those along the way. And if there's some foods that I really want, I try to work those in. So as far as like free meals and cheat meals and stuff, it's kind of here and there. I really don't do them very often. So for me, moving into a contest prep is a very smooth transition. And I think for some people it's very drastic. You know, they might have social lives that are very involved, or that maybe that require a lot of, like, you know, dinners with clients or business meetings, or even social gatherings at work and stuff that make it more challenging. And so that switch to prep is a lot more dramatic for them. But for me, I work at home, especially with this coronavirus. We all are pretty much working at home. So it keeps us to a very limited social life, which is kind of conducive to prep in a way, which sounds alarming. But anyway, I'm going to give you the update, and I am 19 weeks out, which there is some uncertainty here about the Olympia. We don't really know if it's going to be push back or what they're going to do with the qualification series, because there's a lot of pro qualifiers that are now pulled out. So we got to get these other guys qualified, give them chances. Also, the international competitors, don't know what's going to happen with their travel and stuff. So there is the potential it might get pushed back. I just have to prep anyway and just see what happens. I talked to Coach Andrew Veer, and we're thinking like, hey, if I start dieting and 8 weeks into this, we realize Olympia is getting pushed back, you know, at being like that 11-week out point, it's not really detrimental. Like, you'll be at a good body fat. If this ended up being kind of more of like a mini cut, that's perfectly fine. I'll be at a very maintainable spot, and it won't be such an extreme to get down to just that 11-week out point. So regardless, we're just going to start dieting and lead to it. For me, my body weight right now is 244, so it's definitely the heaviest all off season right at the start of prep. Conditioning's at a good spot. It's got a little bit softer leading up into the start of prep, which isn't a big deal. I'm still relatively lean looking at my shots. I mean, I still have quad lines from the top of the hip down to the knee. You still see good oblique separation. There's like one faint glute line I think I have on my rear shot. It's just like a deep muscle separation that I have. So it gives the trick that there's some glute lines, but I think I just have the muscle development to look a little leaner than what I truly am. You'll see that in a lot of these like developed guys. Like they'll look pretty lean, but body fat's higher than what it really is perceived to be. So that's kind of where my current physique is. So I definitely do have a good chunk of weight to get off, roughly 30 pounds, which I'll be at the top of the class, that's for sure. But I can get a little bit more aggressive pulling down to make weight. So with that in mind, I have the time period laid out to do this, and you know, going roughly 1.5 to 2 pounds a week is very, very reasonable for me to do at this stage, and that's how I kind of time out the prep. So going into this diet, nutrition-wise, I've been having this high carb day that's been in place for a while. It's like 900 grams of carbs, and I've had that kind of almost all in one day. It trickles over to my next training day, and so we cut that back to 600 grams, and I do that all in one day. So I have one high day a week. That has been the first main calorie adjustment that's really been made, just pulling back on that low day and that high day. My other training days are still 300 grams of carbs, about 300 protein and 50 fat, and then I have my low days, which are my off days, and those are 100 grams of carbs, about 100 grams of fat and 300 protein. To see the exact breakdown, you can look below in the description. I have it all laid out, exact foods and everything, so y'all can take a look. That's been the adjustment, and I really haven't come down from that, so I think I'm pretty close to maintenance calories. So likely there'll be a bigger pull coming this week, which will need to happen because I don't really have much hunger throughout the day, and cardio wise it's not very challenging. I do 6 sessions a week for 20 minutes on the Stairmaster level 5, and I'll move up to level 6 at the end, so it is pretty easy. So we'll definitely be probably pushing a little bit in the deficit on the calorie wise, and then also on the energy expenditure side. Another aspect of energy expenditure is that my NEAT level, which I use steps just off what I do on my phone. So if I have my phone on me, I'm around 2,300 steps a day, which is nothing. Roughly, you could say 2,000 steps is maybe another 100 calories or so. So at last prep, I built those steps up as I went through. So I increased my NEAT, which was an easier way to increase calorie expenditure without having to just jump on the Stairmaster or another cardio modality and burn calories that way. So that's the plan. Like we'll increase direct cardio, but also increasing step count throughout prep. And I'm going to track that to make sure I don't drop off. So I do a lot of sitting work at the computer, so it's easy for energy to drop down. So that's currently where the diet, cardio set up. Training, I do push-pull off day, then I do legs, push, an off day, then I have another pull day, which is like a little bit hamstring involved, then another off day. So that's been giving me good rest between all my training days. This past off season, I've just tried to train too much, and I can't. Once strength starts progressing up, I need those extra rest days, or it's just connective tissue and joints that just take the beating. And there's been a lot of realizations this off season in areas that are weaknesses that I just haven't addressed and didn't know to address with supporting stability musculature and my squat movements and my pressing movements. So like my rotator cuffs were very, very weak, so I had instability pressing. My glute medius was weak, so I had some issues in the lateral sling when I'm doing squats, which led to like some knee pain. So a lot of things that I've addressed, I finally feel like really good now. So it's a great spot going into prep. Today I'm gonna take you through my push day, and finally I'm having a really good push day because I've had a lot of the issues in upper body pressing movements. I'm finally getting back into some free weight exercises, and that's one thing I've had structured is I'm gonna leave in some free weight movements as the first primary exercise for push when I need the greatest stability requirements, and then I'll move into machines on my second and third compound movements once I'm starting to get fatigued and I require some better stability in that. I start with a dumbbell press. I use like a 15-degree incline, so it's not quite flat. I've just seen too many pec injuries and issues with direct flat pressing. So just that slight incline makes a big difference from a safety perspective, and also get a little bit more range of motion. That's been a very, very good move just for a chest compound. What I've been focused on here going back into these movements is using the biggest range of motion possible that I can safely and really controlling. I think that's what you're really going to see here is like I'm really controlled and deliberate in the eccentric phase, and then press very deliberately into the concentric phase, and not just throwing weight around. So I do a top set right around 10 reps, then drop down in weight and hit a back off set. Then from there I move into what I call my overhead press. It's really a pretty steep incline press, but consideration for shoulder mobility is in this, and external rotation. For me to get into 90 degrees in overhead press is just shoulder destruction. So I get plenty of front delt stimulus just at this steep incline, which it's about 75 degrees if we had to really put a number to it. But I move into the Smith, so I have that stability factored in. And same thought process here, like trying to get good full range of motion and really control the movement. And I'm letting loads progress as they will and trying to really hold form as consistent as possible. And it's so easy, I think, as you're progressing your lifts week to week, that you start speeding that form up you start altering your form a little bit, you're going a little less lower, and the logbook progresses, and you're like, all right, we're getting strong. But in reality, you're just changing the movement pattern to be more biomechanically efficient or less range of motion, requiring less work, and then you're seeing that logbook progress. So don't force the progression, just let it happen as the adaptation occurs. So hit a top set there, did a back off set, 2 sets for my overhead press. Next I was going to move into a tricep pressing movement, and for me, chest is still a weaker point, so I wanted a movement that does have some chest emphasis. So I'm moving to it's a Body Master close grip press. It's not my favorite machine. One side's a little twisted off on it, so you kind of need to sit offset on the pinch, but it does put emphasis on the triceps. My other rotation, I have a close grip Smith press, and I don't want to go to a free weight exercise, and I debated on doing dips, and dips get so unstable up there. In our dip machine, I can max it out way too easy. So so for right now, this is the good machine to have in place. But I went up to a top set on that one and hit a back off set as well. Those were my 3 compound movements. So went chest, shoulder, tricep in that order. And then I move into some isolation movements. So I move into pec deck fly. I'm going to hit 2 sets here. In my top set, I move up in the rep range, so start working higher rep, that 12 to 15 reps. Then I do a back offset and hit a little bit higher reps on that one. Then I move into a machine lateral. I really like machine laterals. I think it gives you good tension throughout the full range of motion. And I'm doing 3 sets for my side delt movement. I'll do a higher top set, which again, I'm working out a higher rep range on these for the isolation movements. I think it's a little easier to progress them using those higher rep ranges than trying to hit like a set of 6, and also it's just hard to feel the side delt truly work on like a set of 6 or something. So I hit a top set, back off and weight. I'll do my back off set, but then I just add on a rest pause to it. So I'll hit, say, 10 reps, then I'll rest 30 seconds, and then go right back into the lift and see how many I can get again. My last exercise, I moved into doing I use the prime bar and prime handles, and I set them up for a tricep press down. I love these prime handles just because I can really match my shoulder width and keep my wrist, my elbow, and shoulder all in line. And they also, as you're pressing down on those handles, they open up really nicely at the bottom, so you don't feel like so confined and internally rotated like you do when you're doing like a rope push down or when you're doing like an easy bar. So mechanically, like they're very ergonomic. You can set yourself up to be kind of mechanically inefficient with them to make sure you're really challenging the tricep, but ergonomics I think is great for that movement. I do these like I do my side laterals, so I'll hit my top set, I'll back off, and then on my back off set I'll add on a rest pause set for a 3rd set. And that wraps up my push day. So it feels good to finally be able to like push as hard as I want and not have to like feel little nicks and niggles like and my rotator cuff and pain and stuff. And if you've dealt with that, it takes the fun out of training. So I'm really enjoying these push days and getting back into them. So at a fresh spot to go into prep. And as far as the training goes, progressing into contest prep, I don't change a thing. I actually get with increasing supplementation as we enter into prep, I actually get this tick up in recovery capacity. And as body weight comes down a little bit, I get really efficient in my lifts. So I just don't fatigue out. Stamina seems better. So I actually get a tick up in performance going into the early stages of prep. So I actually don't change training much. Actually, that's what I've even added in some of these rest pause movements on some of my isolation work because recovery is that good. I will keep the same off days split. Just training so many days back to back, it just wears on me. So I will keep this rotation, and as going into prep, at some point, I will split it training down into usually 6 days on, 1 day off is what I like. but there's not added volume into the week. So I'll just take volume from other days and spread it out. So my training sessions get shorter. So when I'm starting to fatigue out doing a longer training session, I can reduce that down and save it for another day. But that's my update, guys. The full workout is below. My nutrition's below. Look it over. Please let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to doing this prep series with y'all again. So if you have anything you want to know from me or ask me, feel free to below in the comments. And I will see you guys next time.